Hi everyone, I'm Michael Manrique and I'm one of the Habit Guys. We teach realtors prospecting habits so they finally become top producing agents. And welcome to the Realtor Habits Podcast, where agents don't need more stuff, they need better habits. Before we get into today's episode, I want to let you know this episode is brought to you by our Habit Guys Facebook group. We all want to prospect consistently and be more organized. Well, to do that, we need to think, do, and act like a top producer. Watch us prospect live and teach you every week for free how to get more expired listings, FSBOs listings, how to connect with your sphere, learn what to say over the phone to not sound salesy, but instead make friends. All you have to do is visit us at www.habitguys.com/Facebook. Again, that's habitguys.com/Facebook. If you know anyone that can gain value from this podcast, please do us a huge favor and share it with them. We're here to help as many realtors as possible, and we appreciate your help to do so. All right, let's get into today's episode. Today's episode is called The History of Your Prospecting Fear. I'm watching this series on Netflix called The Tourist. It's like 97% on Rotten Tomatoes. My parents mentioned that it was awesome, really suspenseful. And one of the characters in there prompted this podcast episode. So there's a police officer, a female, and you could tell that she has a lot of insecurities, right? And there's one part, I'm not going to spoil it for you guys if you want to watch the series, but there's this one part where, you see her facing her insecurities in different situations. And one of the things that came up reminded me of my childhood, which was she was reminded as a child that she didn't have the courage to go into the bathroom, turn off the lights, and say Bloody Mary 3 times, right? Now, I don't remember exactly how the myth goes, but the idea is you say it 3 times and then she shows up, I think is what I recall. Anyways, I actually remember doing this. I actually, being a kid, I closed the door, turned off the lights, saw myself in the mirror, said it 3 times, and then would you be shocked to find out that no one showed up, no Bloody Mary, right? Now, what's really important to understand is that in this character, when she went to attempt to do it the first time, she didn't go forward with it. She was in the bathroom, and then as the series progresses, she gets the courage. She gets in the bathroom and she does it now. This has nothing to do with the main plot of the series, so still want to encourage you to watch it if you're interested in watching something with a high rating of 97 with Rotten Tomatoes. Okay, but how this applies to real estate agents, and I'm speaking to those real estate agents that have the fear of prospecting, right? To be specific, when you go to prospect, so you're about to make a call, sit at your desk, go to the office, right? What have you, you feel, right? You anticipate this, some sort of bodily sensation or thought process that prevents you from moving forward, okay? Moving forward means picking up the phone and calling, using a dialer and calling, okay? Very specific what I'm talking about here. So what I wanted to do is first help everyone out in understanding what is happening to us, right? To understand the history of your prospecting fear, because this is really step 1 of overcoming it, right? Understanding where it comes from. And it comes, the process is more or less the same. Pinpointing it is less relevant, but understanding where it comes from really helps us move forward and take the actions necessary, i.e. actually make the calls or prospect or connect, more readily, right? It gets us to move forward and accomplish our goals. So it's important to understand what fear is doing at the core, right? So at the core, fear is our brain's way of actually protecting us, right? So I know fear has a negative connotation, but really it's just trying to help out, right? And why is it just trying to help out? Okay, so let's get into the history. So when we're born, between the ages of 0 and 8, right? Essentially, our our life experience is driven by this survival mechanism called basically our limbic system. So the rest of our brain is forming. And if you have children, one of the things that you'll realize is that what children are learning between the ages of 0 and 8 is to be obedient, meaning that adults around them, ideally parents, teachers, grandparents, right, family members, are telling them yes and no. And to be honest, it's mostly no, don't do that, don't touch that, no, be careful there, don't fall there, don't walk too fast, don't walk too slow, right? It's a lot of no's. But at the end of the day, they're learning to be obedient between the ages of 0 and 8, right? And this is happening to all of us. Then the other thing that we're learning is to perform up to others' expectations. So if we follow through, our parents, our teachers are happy, right? We learn that we get good grades between the 0 and 8, and that makes us feel good. So making people, more specifically our parents, maybe our teachers, our grandparents, happy by following their direction, by being obedient, that means to us that we are doing well. Now, what happens is between the ages of 9 and 20, more or less, right? Being general here, there's a period of, puberty and really just opening ourselves up to the world, these new experiences, realizing that we are different from our parents, right? Obviously. And more importantly, that we begin to connect with others. And more impactful is we begin to compare ourselves to our peers. And in doing so, we learn this idea that we might never be enough. What does it mean to be enough? Well, it comes from comparison, seeing what people have, what people don't have. Am I living up to a certain standard around the culture around me, right? So what we begin to do is then seek approval from our peers, and that approval from our peers actually becomes more valuable than our approval from our parents. Okay, and this is a growth pattern that just about all of us go through, right? And as we begin to discover ourselves through connecting with peers, right? This is where now our standards are identified or determined by the people around us, and we continue to compare. But one of the things with that comparison is thinking that maybe we're not good enough, right? Because if we're constantly comparing, what we're saying is, I have to continually meet a standard. And as that standard grows and changes based on, the lifestyle and the people I'm around, or the things I see on TV or on social media, is going to determine what I need to strive for. And when I am not striving or accomplishing that, that essentially means I'm not good enough, right? Now, so this process is essentially what happens to most of us. We begin to separate from our parents in some form or fashion, and we hang out with our peers, our friends. More often, we prioritize their wants, their needs. And then ultimately, between the ages of, 23, 25, early 20s, essentially now our brain is fully formed, meaning that our adult brain, so if you were to touch the front of your forehead, that's where your decision-making capabilities are located, that is fully formed. And this is really important to understand because throughout your adolescence, right, from childhood to adolescence to between the ages of 0 to 20, essentially information is coming to you through your experience, not just through instructional information, right? Like don't do that or learn this or practice your spelling words, but more importantly, through your environment, where actually kids and children and teenagers are actually learning just by being in a room and just experiencing and hearing things and seeing things, okay? And those situations are forming what they believe to be true, forming their biases, forming their fears, right? And ultimately, this is where where the fear of prospecting comes from, right? It's this adolescent learning that our not meeting a standard, right, of comparing ourselves to our peers, right, our friends, our family, and the ramifications of that potential reality is what causes us to pause, to paralyze ourselves, to not move forward and make the calls, to distract ourselves and do other things. So accepting this reality, right? And this generally would come once our brain is fully formed, when we're an adult and we now understand this is happening to us. Now, again, I'm not saying that there was one specific moment in your past where this took place and this is where the fear comes from. Not exactly, no. It's the general understanding that as we grow and we begin to connect with our peers, we begin to compare ourselves. And in the process of comparison comes this gap of never being good enough, because you're always chasing, unconsciously, this is just unconscious, right? We're always comparing ourselves to other people, okay? The people around us, ideally. And this is where the fear of prospecting comes from, this comparison, this seeking of approval, and not knowing what to say when you prospect, or not knowing what's going to happen next, or potentially some other unknown aspect of the process is the primary reason that most people fear prospecting. And this is really important to understand, because now you're an adult. And just because something is unknown to you, right, doesn't necessarily mean you shouldn't do it, because ultimately what's important to know is that this is normal. That's right. So most people actually feel some sort of doubt or hesitancy or even shaming themselves, for a few seconds, up to 3 minutes. And then, you know what? They just do the difficult task, specifically of prospecting. This is important to understand. When you start off, right, you start feeling this. You might feel like butterflies in your stomach, or your heart might start racing, or your palms might start sweating, or your back might start aching, or your neck might tighten, right? There's going to be these physical indicators that your brain is saying, whoa, 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 we want to protect you here, right? So we're going to give you these bodily sensations, which then mean to you that you need to stop. And this is where the negative self-talk comes in. Negative in the sense that it doesn't allow you to move forward. Move forward in the sense that you actually make the call. So some things that you might think is like, this is not the right time. I need to practice more. I need to research more, and thoughts like that. So ultimately, what's really important to understand is doubts and shaming or, fear is normal for any process where there is growth. Okay. So now the difference is, does it completely paralyze you? Do you completely distract yourself and do something else other than actually connect with people or call them? If that's the case, and then this understanding that your non-conscious or unconscious, experience or anticipation to prospecting is not within your control. And ultimately, if you want to be a successful realtor, right? If you want to get deals, you have to connect with people, right? I like to reverse engineer the process so we could see. So if you want deals, right? No matter what the number is, okay, based on your market, to get a deal, you have to have a contract. To get a contract, you have to have an appointment. To have an appointment, you have to have a conversation. To have a conversation, ideally, you would make a call, right? So this is why making the call is such a critical process to accomplishing your goals. And if we have this in mind as an adult, then at the end of the day, we understand that for the change to occur in our business and in our personal lives, we have to take action. The action is prospecting. The action is making calls and connecting. So ultimately, the solution is action. And just like Nike's slogan is just do it, that really is how you move forward. And in going back to this series, The Tourist, that's what this police officer does. She gets in front of the mirror and she's had enough, and she says it 3 times, and sure enough, she realizes, I can do this. And then she goes off on her adventure. Okay. All right. So if you've tried to actually prospect consistently, if you even know what I just taught you, and hopefully this is the first step, right? So knowledge, understanding what's happening in the brain is not under your control, right? Because of your past experience, to compare yourself to others and live up to others' expectations, that's where the fear comes in, right? If you know this now and you're still having difficulty prospecting consistently, and then this is where our system comes in. So right now we have limited seats available to join our actual coaching program. If you're interested, go ahead and sign up for a free coaching consultation. That's at habitguys.com/call. Again, that's www.habitguys.com/call. That's CALL. All right. So in closing, here is the missing piece to your business. It's accepting that when you know better, you do not necessarily do better. You do better when you change your habits. Let us help.